Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, January 29th, 2021. I am Dave Biddle. I am very happy to be joined by Jonah Booker for his usual Friday visit. All right, a lot to get into. There's a ton on the agenda today, J-Book. Let's start with JT Tuimoloau. He will not sign on signing day this coming Wednesday. What do you make of that, and do you think he will ultimately be a Buckeye?
Yeah, it's a little, I would say it's probably frustrates some of the Ohio State fans because they were thinking that this recruiting has been going on for quite a bit of time, and the kid was supposed to sign on signing day, but you can't blame them. The NCAA really did a poor service to these kids with shutting down all of these visits, and to his right, and he has every obligation to do it. He wants to visit Ohio State. He wants to check out Alabama before he makes a final decision because he's never been to Ohio State. He wants to make sure that he's comfortable with the coaches, comfortable with the facilities and the campus life, and he wants his family to also check it out. So it sounds like this has been something that's been brewing for several weeks now. There were hints of it. There wasn't anything definitive that he was actually going to push it back all the way to April, but it looks like that's going to be the case. The NCAA is looking to lift the quiet period where the ban from kids visiting campus in April, so that coincides with him looking to make a couple visits. But I think with Ohio State, if they can continue to hold their lead, proceed leave heading into April, and if you can get him on campus, I do believe at that time they can go ahead and close the deal here. Obviously, Alabama is going to be a major threat. Whenever Nick Saban is the head recruiter, you're going to have a battle on your ends to the very end. So they have some guys that were previously on the Alabama staff that's headed to Texas that was recruiting him. Nick Saban has pretty much gotten involved and taken over as the primary recruiter. And at Ohio State, you have Larry Johnson that's a primary, and then Ryan Day also involved there. And then you also have Hartline. So I love Ohio State chances when you have those three guys teaming up for a prospect. But I understand where some frustration would be with guys on the message boards and the fans hoping that he was going to be in the bag and signed come February, but that's not the case. So we just have to wait out for a little bit longer.
Speaking of big-time defensive prospects from the West Coast in the 2021 class, Raesjon Davis, linebacker, modern day. What do you think is going to happen with this? What are your vibes here? Seems like the Buckeyes are an underdog, but maybe not as big of an underdog as I thought.
Yeah, I thought heading into that visit, it was going to be an Ohio State USC battle with USC out in front. But after that visit, from everything that his father has said, everything that he has said, it really sounds like Ohio State has significantly closed the gap here. The beat writers who have spoken to him and his family directly have said that Ohio State is a major threat now. I think one of the biggest game changers in all of that is the fact that his father's brother is 15 minutes away from campus. And so they were able to see him, and then he also has family in Cleveland. So if they do decide to allow their kid to go all the way across the country, he will have a support system that is right there in his backyard. He loved it. If anyone had the chance to look at his Instagram during his visit, he was riding around campus, sticking his head out the window, just in awe of the stadium and the campus. And he looked at the camera and says, "I love it." And you could just see it in his eyes that the kid was really having a great time. Because it was the dead period, he really wasn't allowed to get into the Ohio State facilities and meet face to face with the coaches, but he was able to meet with the recruits, the current guys that are coming in that are on campus, spend a lot of time with those guys that he's very familiar with. And I just think that right now Ohio State is in a very solid position. You could have if it could have been just a home run if he'd have given a verbal there on campus, but he didn't, obviously. And you got to just keep your fingers crossed and keep recruiting him. I know there was some talk about his family saying coming back before signing day again. If that happens, I 100% believe that he will be a Buckeye. If you turn around and have back-to-back cross-country trips like that in such a short period of time, then you have to really feel good about Ohio State chances. I'm not going to hold out hope very much to see if that he's going to make that trip. But I just think that right now in Ohio State, they're doing everything that they can to get this kid. And I think they really put themselves in position to excel.
Let's look at the current team now, Jay Book. So you look at the three quarterbacks for the Buckeyes in 2021, very young group, obviously, very extremely talented group with C.J. Stroud, Jack Miller, Kyle McCord. And Ryan Day was asked exactly a week ago when we met with him on Zoom. He was asked about the quarterbacks. Of course, he's not going to tip his hand. I mean, of course, he's not going to be like, even if he thought Jack Miller was clearly the head, he was, yeah, Jack Miller's the guy. The rest of the guys don't really like them. Or if CJ Stroud, whoever it was, he wouldn't tip his hand regardless. But as you pointed out, I found it interesting that he did say to the media that right now all three quarterbacks are on equal footing. What do you make of Coach Day's comments, and who do you think will be the starting quarterback for the Buckeyes this fall?
Well, I think it was coach speak. He had to say that. He can't come into when you have three highly rated guys and you're trying to keep all of them on the roster. You can't come out and say one guy is ahead of the other group. I truly do believe it's going to be a strong quarterback battle, but I think C.J. Stroud right now has the leg up. I believe that he has all the tools that they're looking for. He's dynamic with the legs. He has a tremendous arm touch on the pass. I think that he's going to have a slight edge on those other guys, especially Kyle McCord, who's going to need some time to adjust to the college game, adjust to the playbook of a college playbook and all the intricacies, because Ohio State's playbook is not easy to learn. If you ask Justin Fields, it took him quite a bit of time to really get a grasp on it. So I think coming in is great that all three of your quarterbacks are on campus. Hopefully they get a spring football season to really have a true battle. But if you're saying all three guys are on equal playing foot right now, I would definitely say C.J. Stroud has a slight edge on those guys.
Yeah, he's got a foot up. I would say I'm not sure if it's equal footing. And by the way, if I'm Ryan Day, I would say the exact same thing that he did. I would say that it's equal footing. Why he's not lying to these kids behind closed doors. There's no reason and I'm a media guy saying this, and I've said this time and time again on the podcast over the years. I'm a media guy saying this. I have no problem with coaches lying to the media about stuff like that. Like, what I mean, it's just detrimental to you if you're going to tip your hand. I mean, guys are going to transfer. You're going to tip your hand to your opponents. If it's during the season, during the offseason, you're not going to tip your hand to the opponents. But yeah, man, I'm with you. I think CJ Stroud will be the guy.
And I tell you this, Dave, if they have a full spring, I don't think we will even know who the starting quarterback is come spring.
I agree.
Because it would not behoove them to name someone a starter, because what you're essentially doing is you're putting the squeeze on one of your quarterbacks that want to transfer. So if you can drag this out as long as possible, all the way into fall camp, then I think it would definitely benefit the program. And they will have in their mind who they believe the starter will be, but I don't think they would name anyone after spring football.
Yeah, I often just try to put my shoes, if I was the coach, what would I do? And I have had, coaches at times when I've asked a question, reach out to them on DM, and maybe I'll say, listen, maybe I should have waited on that one, or, I understand you couldn't say much about it. I've had coaches many times over the years tell me, like, listen, I know you have a job to do, but we have a job to do too, that type of thing. So
right.
I get it both ways, and I think that's people need to understand that. People are like, there's a million examples. I'll never forget people freaking out in the Cincinnati media when Thad Matta, quote unquote, lied to them and he wasn't leaving Xavier. It's like he could admit that he was looking at the Ohio State job in case he didn't get it, and then his recruiting was messed up. But that's one of many examples. I will always defend coaches on stuff like that. Now, if you're lying for no reason, if you're just lying to lie or you're being a jerk, that's different. But stuff like what we're talking about, I will always defend coaches on that, even being a media guy. All right. Speaking of coaches, Buckeyes have a big hire to make, my man. Who will be, well, maybe not who will be. I'm not going to ask you for a specific name because it's probably going to be, in my opinion, Jay Book, somebody maybe who's not even on our radar, similar to Jeff Hafley. But the Buckeyes have a big vacancy with Greg Madison retiring. Who do you think Ryan Day, what type of like profile are you looking at as far as who Ryan Day might bring in as co-defensive coordinator?
Yeah, I think you have to kind of tap into that mold which you found in a Jeff Hafley, who was a younger guy, a brilliant defensive mind, innovative. He's a heck of a motivator, and I think that right now on that defensive side of the football, they need someone who's going to be able to inject some X's and O's chops so that they can make sure that they elevate this defense schematically. But most importantly, you have to have a younger presence on that defense, because if you look at it, Larry Johnson is up there, Kerry Combs is up there. Matt Barnes is a younger guy, but his role is kind of more of an assistant on the back end, a special teams coordinator. So I just think that they have to have someone who's going to be able to come in there and really elevate this defense schematically. I wouldn't be surprised if if he taps into the NFL again and finds someone in that mold who has familiar with the style of defense that Ohio State prefers to want to run. So I'm looking at that, and you have to wish Greg Madison the best there. Everyone was really eyeing that particular position on the coaching staff as someone who may not be back and may decide to just hang it up, and it obviously came to fruition. So to me, Dave, I'm just going to go with a younger NFL mind who can really teach technique, fundamentals, and bring element to the table to where he's going to help Kerry Combs, because I truly believe what Kerry Combs has on his plate right now is too much. Being the defensive coordinator itself is a major challenge, because you, at the end of the day, you're in charge of that entire side of the football. But with Kerry, which is very unusual, he's in charge of the entire secondary on top of that, and you throw in the play calling duties. So I just think they need some more help on the back end. I truly believe that. I understand Kerry wants to be involved with the corners. That's his specialty. But I believe that they need to have someone that's going to be able to help those guys on that side of the football when it comes to teaching, because I felt like the pass defense, one of the things, not so much schematically, is the fundamentals were lacking this year, and just basic things. And we've went over it several times. Those things right there should be nipped in the butt from a coach right away. And the fact that it wasn't tells me that Kerry Combs was a little spread too thin there.
One staple of the Ryan Day era so far, it's a short era, 2 years, winning the Big Ten championship, making it to the college football playoff, and knocking it out of the park in the transfer portal. Justin Fields, that was a pretty good one, right, JB? And they also got Jonah Jackson, who was a third-round pick and then starts every game as a rookie for the Lions. That's going to be one we look up in a few years. He's going to be like the next Corey Linsley that's probably making a ton of money in the NFL. Linsley was a fifth-round pick. Jonah was a third-round pick and starts every game as a rookie, just like Linsley did. And then, of course, Trey Sermon, who was looking like Ezekiel Elliott there until he got hurt. Of course, first play of the game against Alabama. So, again, it's similar to the Madison question. I'm not asking you for a specific name unless you've heard one, but I would bet anything they're going to add at least one guy from the portal. They're going to probably lose some guys too. What positions you think they're looking at? You think they're looking at corner? And if you have heard any names, who might they be?
Yeah, the main position that everyone's been hearing about is linebacker. And you would have thought that they would have been looking at cornerback, especially when a lot of people believed that the depth was seriously lacking on the back end there. So just the fact that they are looking at linebackers, from what what their scuttlebutt is, tells me that either one, they feel like they need to get another veteran presence, someone who has played a lot of football at the linebacker position after you lost 4 guys already, going to trying their luck in the NFL, or 2, you believe that you may have someone who could be eyeing to leave the program. Either way, I agree with you. I think that they're going to at least bring in one more guy. They have to be careful though, because at that linebacker position and at that defensive back position, you have a lot of younger guys who have been in the program for quite a bit of time that have waited several years to really play a significant role. And we've talked about it before. I can't remember a time where the linebacker position was so pigeonholed. You really don't see guys at a position at Ohio State that are there for 5 years, let alone 6 years with Justin Hilliard, coming back and getting NCAA clearance. So a lot of those guys at that position 4 or 5 years in the program is just something that you typically don't see at Ohio State, because if you're a starter at Ohio State and you're performing at a high level, chances are you're leaving early to go to the NFL. So if you look at that next wave of linebackers who are very talented, they were all highly ranked guys, they haven't played a major role in this defense. So they view it as their time is now. And if you bring in a transfer, it could upset some of those younger guys or the next wave guys. But we'll see. I do believe that Ohio State, they have to feel that something's happening internally, because if you're to believe Ryan Day's comments after signing day, where he said they only have one spot left, if that's true, and you're still going after Raesjon Davis and JT, then where's that other spot coming from? That means to tell me that they believe that they're calculating that at least 1 or 2 more guys will enter the transfer portal from Ohio State.
Great insights and opinions, as always, from Jonah Booker. Thank you very much, Jay Book. Thank you to all of the listeners for tuning in the show. We appreciate that very much. Have a great weekend, Bucknutters.